Good morning, Crossout players. Just coming to you with another video. This one's going to be on the newest update that the PC players received yesterday, Crossout 0.7.0. Just going to give you a quick overview, kind of show you some things in-game that changed that have to do with the update, and just kind of, provide you with the general information of this update so that you don't have to read through it and you can actually see the video guide to go with it. So starting out, one of the biggest things that people wanted is it was really hard to get to the large wheels. I think before you had to be like level 8 or level 9 with the scavengers to make them. That has now been changed. You can now create the large wheel and large wheel ST at scavengers level 3. So again, factions, scavengers, manufacturing, right under the twin wheels. The requirements for them are still the same. They haven't changed that. So it's still the same items required to make both. They just made it a little more attainable for everyone involved. An improved appearance for a number of structural parts for the scavengers. I haven't really noticed that appearance difference because I don't normally play with the scavengers armor because it's so heavy. But, some people will like that because they do like having nice, pretty vehicles in the game. Tweak the list of parts obtainable at level 1 for engineers, so that's going to help out some of the new players. So the difficulties of some of the raids have been changed. Scavenger and Lunatic armored cars have been switched in the 4th and 5th defense waves. Increased pause before the first wave at the 3rd pump jack in defense mode by 10 seconds on easy and medium, meaning they give you an additional 10 seconds to get to that 3rd pump jack before they start sending enemies out to actually attack you. Another thing about the scavengers and the lunatic armored cars being switched in the 4th and 5th defense waves, that means that it's going to make it a little bit easier for people in the 4th and 5th defense waves of those raids. Alright, so let's take a look at all the parts that have been changed. This is the biggest part of this update, in my opinion, is the nerfing and the buffing of certain weapons. Now the first one up to bat is going to be the rapier, the AC-43 autocannon. They increase the burst length, meaning they increase the number of shots that you can take before the weapon overheats at a base. So before it used to be 11 shots, now it's up to 14, so you have 3 additional shots that you can fire before your weapon overheats. They also reduced the cooldown timer after it overheats, so instead of taking 3 seconds for the overheating to go away, it now only takes 2.7, meaning that the rapier actually got a really big buff in this update, making it a pretty good weapon for the blue tier. The next one up is going to be the little boy, the 6-pound turret cannon. Now that one, they increased the weapon structure from 333 to 413. Which is going to be a huge buff. That means it's going to take a lot more damage to knock the little boys off. They also increased its accuracy, which is huge. And the maximum movement scatter was reduced to 33%. And basically what that means is while you're moving with the cannons equipped, your crosshairs actually zoom out, so that you're not as centralized. You don't have a central point of aim. It's basically giving you a bigger radius that the projectile could go in. So they reduced that by 33%, meaning that it's going to be easier to shoot while moving. Now the weapon mass increase is going to be a negative, but I think with that movement scatter reduction and the increased hit points, the increased structure really isn't going to do but so much. Well, the increased mass, I mean. Alright, so next up is going to be another huge buff to something that is hated throughout the community, and that's going to be drones. Drones are my favorites outside of Wasp missiles, as all of you know. But the drone builds can be hard to deal with. The flying drones, the attack drones, are a little easier because they don't have a lot of structure. The sidekick drones are a little more of a pain because they do have an increased structure. But in this update, they increased that even further. They increased it from 150 to 200, a 50-point increase, which is pretty substantial for people that use sidekick drones. So might want to watch out for sidekick drones during this update. And one of the huge negatives of this update is actually going to be the Spectre. A lot of people use the Spectre because it is a really good purple weapon. So it's really good for its tier, but they did reduce the damage by 15%. And the only reason that they state they did this reduction in damage is because so many people were using the Spectre in higher tier play. They want people to move away from focusing on the Spectre and kind of look at the other weapons that you have in the higher tiers, as far as like the Thunderbolts, and things of that nature. So they're just trying to get people to branch out and use weapons of different types. But the 15% damage reduction isn't a huge hit for the Spectre. It still does good damage. It's still really good at taking specific pieces off of an enemy in a really quick fashion. So not a huge hit, but enough that people aren't very happy about it. Another huge thing is pyres are already an issue in lower tier play because a lot of people are figuring out that they can put pyres on their vehicles and basically do what we call seal clubbing. They go into the lowest power score they can get with their desired number of pyres, and they literally just massacre people with the pyres. So basically they increase the missile turn speed. Before, the missile's turn speed was okay, it might have been a little slow, but they increased it by 20%, meaning that essentially the missiles are going to turn a lot quicker, and their reasoning for this is that even the heavily armored, slower cars were able to dodge them or hide. So we'll see how long this stays. Not 100% sure. Another buff that not very many people are going to see is going to be for the howitzer. Not many people have made it up to the high tiers where you're going to see the howitzers, which is a high tier Steppenwolf weapon. But basically they just gave it where the impact area where the actual rounds land now burns. So that essentially it does additional damage to anyone who's sitting in that area while it's burning. Alright, and now we go down to one of the most wanted additions to this update, and many people have wanted this since the actual fuel nerf. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Everybody hates the fuel nerf. Everybody hates the fact that it went from 25 fuel to 5. Well, now they're giving us a new fuel tank. But before we get to that, we'll go to the fuel barrel. Because they're giving us a new fuel tank, they did a damage reduction for the fuel barrel. The fuel barrel used to do 900 damage when it exploded. Now it's down to 450, which is a good cut. It was doing a lot of damage for what it was before, and it's definitely down to a good point now. And then they added in the new blue fuel tank. Now this fuel tank can be crafted or bought, but mostly you're going to want to craft it because it's going to be easier. And that's going to be under engineers. It's going to be under the blue manufacturing. Fourth from the bottom is going to be fuel tank. It doesn't take a huge amount of resources. Most people should be able to make this pretty easily. As you can tell, it is a 6x2, meaning that it is exactly twice the size as the normal fuel barrel. Now, when this blows up, it does do 900 damage, which is what the previous fuel barrel used to do. Now, you'll also notice it says that it gives 10 fuel. It says it does not stack with multiple barrels, but if you take a look at the patch notes, currently the fuel income from mounting both the fuel barrel, which is the original barrel, and the fuel tank does stack, and I have tested this and it does work. Meaning if you go into a battle with a fuel barrel and a fuel tank, you survive and you win. You will be getting 15 fuel instead of 5, which is a huge boost. I was making fuel hand over fist yesterday after the update. So this is a huge boost to fuel, which is definitely going to mess with the market over the coming days. So I would recommend hoarding fuel right now. I wouldn't recommend dumping it, which is what a lot of people have been doing. I'd hold out, keep your fuel, use it for raids, use it to get copper. Just don't sell it right now. Like, wait for the market to calm down. But be prepared for market prices to change over the next weeks. It's going to take a while for the market to calm down. It's probably going to take... By the time the market calms down from this, it's probably going to be getting released on Steam, and then the marketplace is going to jump all over the place again. So for those people who are playing the market, or for those people who are just randomly selling stuff, please be careful. You can lose a lot of coins or be cheated out of a lot of coins really quick in this marketplace. Now let's go back to talking about the fuel tank. Now, a huge hit from the fuel tank is that its power score went up from the fuel barrel by 2.5. Actually more than 2.5, because the previous fuel barrel is 120. So, well actually yeah, 2.5. We've gone up quite a bit. We've now up to 300 power score. And if you wanted to use the fuel tank plus the barrel, you're looking at sacrificing 420 power score, which is a lot of armor. That's almost another blue tier weapon. Now it doesn't use any energy. It does have a decent amount of structure points at 140, compared to the fuel barrel that's only sitting at 56. Mass is, again, more than double, so it's going to increase the actual mass of your vehicle, but that power score is what bothers me the most. That's that's a huge hit to power score. Like you cannot put a fuel tank and a fuel barrel on a low power score vehicle and be effective. I had to go up from playing the 2.5K brackets up to playing the 3K brackets just because of that power score increase. And technically I'm starting to feel more comfortable at almost 3.5 because of that increase. But anyway, back to the patch notes. As you can tell, they gave us a new interface option. Basically what this does is it is a quick messaging system. While you're in battle, you can now press and hold V and it'll bring up this menu, and you can press these buttons to send commands in game to the other players. So that way, if you don't have a mic, you can't talk to the other players, or people aren't really communicating with you, you will be able to kind of let them know what you're planning or what you're doing, so you can better coordinate with your teammates, which is a really good improvement. Now the next step from this would be if they made it where bots followed certain commands or certain people, so that if somebody issued a command, certain bots would actually follow that command. That would be a huge step in the right direction. And basically the rest of this is just some miscellaneous changes. The debriefing window at the end of matches has been improved. The weapon customization kits and storage, the icons have been improved. They changed the name of Gunner to Stone Deaf. They actually added driver icons and skill icons, so all that looks a lot better. They upgraded the upgrade system. They changed some of the graphics for a bunch of the maps. So a bunch of the maps have changed in how they look, and they look a lot more pleasing to the eye for those people who aren't partially colorblind. Anyway, the only real thing that got changed was the Founder's Canyon map. The one where there is no point in the middle. There's a point on each end, and there was the roundabout areas that you could go to that basically each team would start going in a different direction, and it was just a race to see who could cap first. They changed that map so that it's not as easy to avoid each other. Instead of the tracks on the outside going straight around, they made it where they lead to a central area where it's more likely for the enemy to meet each other, meaning that they're trying to promote battle in this area instead of just promoting people to run to the cap and see who can get there first. And then the rest of the patch is just all going to be miscellaneous stuff and bug fixes. All in all, I'm thinking this was a good patch. I'm still iffy on the power score for the fuel barrel, also iffy on the actual mass for that. I wish they just would have doubled what it was instead of doing a 2.5 increase for both. But I think it's good. The Spectres are in an okay place. They've moved down a little bit below where they were because of that 15% nerf that they received. The drones, I think, are probably going to be an issue at higher play. It's not the attack drones that they did, it's the sidekick drones, so that's not really going to affect people in lower tiers. And I think the structure increase for those is probably justified in the higher level play because of the type of weapons that people are using. But again, this is me, Doc, just giving you the rundown on the 0.7.0 update for Crossout. I hope this video has given you all the insight that you needed and possibly helped you understand some of the changes that just came about. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to comment in the video. If you have any videos that you'd like me to do that are upcoming in the future, please let me know in the comments. I know that people want me to do one for general building tips, maybe some general build for different power scores, since I don't put my builds on the exhibition, and there's also going to be a general market video coming up as well. But I hope everybody has a great day. Thank y'all for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in game.